Okay, I'm live. Hopefully we can, might be starting just a minute or two early for some people. I don't know. We'll see if we can get everybody in here. Get some guys started. Give me a drink here. Oh, me. Well, hey, Tim, how are you? Yeah, I'm doing good this morning. Sitting outside underneath I got a covered deck here. Sitting outside here enjoying the weather. Well, hey, Nova, how are you? Yeah, I'm enjoying the weather and hopefully enjoying the week and everything. It's been a pretty good week. I haven't had too many major issues. Had to tow one in the other day. I had a major airline that goes down the frame of the truck that we had to tow back. Well, at least that's where we got to trace it down tomorrow and find out that it happened Friday afternoon, but it wasn't too bad of an issue. He was almost back, and we just had to switch out trucks and get the loads on in, and everything worked out just fine. Well, hey, how are you? How's Oklahoma out there, Ponca? I've noticed y'all have had some pretty bad weather out there in Oklahoma and Kansas and everything else. I know it's been. Well, hi, Ryan. How are you? I know it's been really nice weather out here. We've been fortunate here in North Carolina. It's getting a little bit warm. We hit 90 degrees yesterday, 90 or 91. So it's creeping up, and I think it's supposed to be about like that again today too. Whew, I had to shirt out here a little bit, but well, hey, Blaze, how are you this morning? Yeah, we're. Let me turn this around. It was raining hard yesterday. Yeah, we'll probably end up getting some of that as it migrates across the United States and everything. We'll probably end up getting some of that next week or at the end of the week or first week, I guess, if it was raining over in Oklahoma, because it usually takes about a day or two. Whatever Oklahoma and Kansas gets, we get later if it doesn't go straight up the coast. But but right now we've got a very, very pretty morning out here. Oh, really? I know, but you're north of here, aren't you? Aren't you in? You're in what, Pennsylvania? That area, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I can't remember. It's hard for me to remember where everybody's at. But Syracuse. Oh, so you're in New York. One of my mechanics is from up in that area originally. Of course, he couldn't wait to get back south. He said he couldn't take the Northeast. Was just too much for him with the weather and everything else. It was too much cold weather to suit him. So it's I guess it's a lifestyle. It's like everything. It's whatever you're raised with, I guess. But he was tired of it. When he moved south, he liked it down here, so he stayed down here. We got pretty good weather in this area. I like the Carolinas. Out of all the places that I've been, I like exactly where I live because it's well, one thing, it's always home, and the other thing is the weather is not too wild. We don't have the extremes. I mean, when we get snow down here, we get it for a few days and it's usually gone. Yeah, if you like snowmobiling, yeah, you're in the right place, I guess, up around Syracuse and everything there and further north. Yeah, it can be a hassle, I guess, but it's whatever you're adapted to, I guess. That's the way everything is in life. That whatever you adapt to is what you like, and and the older you get, the more you get complacent, and you want to stay in the same locations and everything. That's me. I'm happy right here. People say, "Well, you want to travel?" I might want to travel a little bit and see the different sites, but when it comes right down to it, I want to be back home. So I'm a homebody in that respect, and I'll watch everything on TV, and I'll watch the travel channels. A lot of people say, "Well, you want to go overseas?" No, not really. Don't want to go overseas. I can look at all these things, and I can imagine what it looks like, and I realize that some of these things are better visual if you're really there instead of looking at it on a high definition TV. But it's sometimes you don't want to do that. Well, hey, Chris, I'm glad to see you in here. Oh, me. No, that's why you moved to North Carolina too, Ryan. Yeah. 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 It can get a little overwhelming. You can't get any more northern than Texas, huh? Well, and that's what happens. I mean, like I said, you get into a situation where that's what you're acclimated to. That's what your body and your lifestyle likes, and it's good to stay with that. I mean, that's what makes the world go round. I I love it here in the Carolinas, and we're right here in the Piedmont area. I mean, I don't particularly want to be in downtown somewhere. I'm not a town person. I'm a country boy, I guess you might say. This little small town we live in, I've got um, there's about 5,000 people in Cherryville, and that's big enough for me. Now, my wife and I, we were talking just the other day. We were just in one of the adjacent towns, and she was talking about how much traffic it was. And she said, "Gosh, maybe we could probably do better with the store." I said, "Well, yeah, we probably could, but it would be higher taxes, more money this, more money that, and then when you look at the grand scheme of things, usually it's about the same for what you net and everything else out of life." And I get the best of both worlds because, like my trucks, they're based out of Charlotte. Charlotte's about 35 miles from here. It's a hassle if I have to drive on a daily basis, but I don't. I'm able to telecommute, most of my things from back and forth to Charlotte. And I have drivers that leave here and go to Charlotte every day, so I don't have to actually go into Charlotte per se every single day. So I'm in good shape there. So, the business in that respect is good for me because I don't have to put up with a commute like some people do, which is good. That's what's good. I like being able to work out of my house, and I've got my Napa store too. And I go over there, but I don't even go over there on a daily basis either, because that's not the way I want to run it. I mean, I check in with it several times daily, and I try to stay abreast of things. And I go over there when I want to go over there, but I don't want to go over there and make it a drudgery on me going to go over there. So my ideal situation is to stay close to home. I've got all my phones and my computers and everything I need to do right here. So I can manage 99% of my business right here, or even at my condo when I'm down at Hilton Head. We have everything set up there too, computer wise and everything else. So we can go in and manage most of the business. Might be one or two things occasionally that we have to call back to our home base here and get something, but 99% of the time we have everything duplicated, so we can do just about anything both places. I'm still trying to add some extra drivers down in Savannah. That's what my goal is right now, is to add some more drivers in Savannah, Georgia. I've got everything filled in North Carolina. Luckily, it didn't take me long at all to get. I had one spot. I had a gentleman that went on. He took a lease contract with another company. I hope he'll do okay. Some of these leases are sort of predatory, and you get into a situation where they give you a lease and want you to buy their truck or get you started with their truck. And basically, I've seen a lot of them that all you're doing is paying for their truck. And if you don't pay for it, then they'll take it back, and then you're stuck with bad credit and a no job and no truck. And that's what you get involved with sometimes. Yeah, that's right, Chris. There's no place like home that you can, it's, if you're able to, work here, and that's why I still work. I mean, at my age, most people are retired, and well, here comes one of my puppies. Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing, boy? Yeah, I got two border collies, and here's my friendly one. He's right here with me. I got one. Yeah. Don't be talking. Don't be talking now. I'll show you. You want to get on? You want them to see you? Huh? There you are. Yeah, there's my border collie. Yeah, he. All right, quit licking me. Quit licking me. What did I say? Quit. Go on. Yeah, that's what he's wanting. He's wanting a good petting. That's what he's over here just panting away. He wants a good pet in our sprinkler system. I don't know why, but that's what happens. Yeah, that's what happens, isn't it, boy? Yeah, I've got two border collies. One of them, they're named Diesel and Axel. Yeah, and this is Axel here. Yep, sneeze, huh? Huh? Had to sneeze. That old. Yeah, well, you're wet as you can be, boy. Go on. Yeah, go. All right, I'm gonna try to work around him. He's trying his best to take all of my attention right there. Yeah, we like our border collies. They're real smart dogs. We have. Yeah. Your border collie's up here trying to get online, Barbara. Yeah. My wife's out here doing her yard work this morning. But yeah, she has, basically the dogs are hers. I like them okay, but I'm not in love with dogs like she loves dogs. I tolerate them. So there's a difference, but they're pretty good dogs. One of them's scared of me. I had to really kind of get tough on one time because he bit my mother-in-law is what he did. He snapped at her and made a spot on her leg, and it really irritated me. So I kind of spanked him pretty good, and he doesn't come around me much anymore. When he sees me, he'll take off. So they got a real good memory, that's for sure. I mean, I thought maybe he'd forget about it and go on, but boy, when I come around, he remembers. I mean, he'll see me and wag his tail a little bit. If it's me and Barbara and he sees me, he'll take off and leave. Now the other one's just all over us, but they got a good memory. But they're both good dogs as long as we keep them pinned in. We got the wireless network around. I mean, I guess you call it wireless. The wireless fencing or fence. What do you call that? Anyway, invisible fencing. That's what they call it. Invisible fencing. I was trying to call it wireless or something. But yeah, invisible fencing. And they've got about 2 acres here they can roam, and that's good enough for them. I hate to see them get out too much further because you could little border collies and everything. Somebody will snatch one up for one thing because people like border collies. Yeah. Yeah. So Duke was able to, yeah, Diesel hadn't forgiven me. Well, now they're seeing the cows. We got Black Angus cows in the pasture across the pond from us. So now that the cows are coming out down here, you hear them barking in the background. Yeah. Yeah, dogs you can really get attached to dogs. I mean, and you, like I said, you can see how smart so many of them are too. I mean, border collies are probably the smartest breed of dogs that we've ever owned. And these two we got papers on these two. They're pure border collies. And of course, they got that black and white look. You can see it just looks like everyone you see in the pictures too. But they're a good, smart breed, and they're fast. Boy, they're some of the fastest dogs I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, the store's done pretty good this week. It's kind of it wasn't as good as the previous week, I guess you might say. If revenue wise, I'm thinking it was about an average week. But we're still seeing increase in our ticket. What we go by a lot of the times is our ticket count, because we want to see how many customers we actually have that we're buying, and our ticket count has gone up. It's doubled from what it was a year ago. So we're really happy with that. I'd like to get it tripling before long, but I'm not going to try to be greedy either. But we're trying to get out to the other shops and places like that. We've got a good. I think we've got a good looking store. I've gone to some of the other Napa stores in the area. Some of my competitors, some of my buddies, really, they're friends with me, and I see them at the corporate meeting and everything. And I've checked out their stores. And I feel like I've got one that's very comparable to just about any of them, and a lot of them. I feel like I've got something a little bit better than them too, because we're trying to have a lot of retail out front, which seems to do real well for us. People, when you walk into a store, people want to, they generally have an idea of what they want, but sometimes they just want to shop too. So I tried to have enough out there out front so a person can just actually shop too, because you never know what they're going to say. Oh, what about that? Oh, I see this. And, we've got the things that will maybe, pique their interest or whatever while we're out there. Yeah, I like, we're trying to make it look real good. Hopefully Google will get me a good looking Google picture now. They've had the same old picture up that they've had for several years. And my daughter was out there Tuesday, I think, and she said I had to wait on the Google car, because they got the little Google Street View cars. They go around and take pictures everywhere, and they're out there. So hopefully they'll upload a more current picture of the storefront, so you can see my Napa. So when you type in my address and everything, you'll see my address. But right now it's got the old way it used to look before I bought it and remodeled it last year. Oh, really? Well, they got new owners and they're not doing. Oh God, yeah. Well, some people have different ideas about the way they want to run a store too. I've hopefully, people. Well, I've had a lot of compliments from the people around town that have told me that they liked our store as good as any, and that's what we're trying to do. I want to be able to get the retail and the wholesale business back in there the best I can. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about it. When we are independent stores, Napa is an independent network. There are some corporate stores too. Usually, the corporate stores are at the larger cities like Charlotte, and Gastonia down here have the corporate stores, and the outlying areas. That's where you get your independent contractors, because Napa's not. They're not built to have all corporate stores. I mean, a lot of these others are are corporate stores. And what it does, and their philosophy is that, they can get, sometimes hopefully they'll get somebody that's energetic and like me, I hope, and wants to do a real good job, and they can have a little variety from the normal just store. You can put your little spin on it, and that's what they let us do. I mean, I'm able to put the spin of what I want to do in the store, and I like that freedom. I like that freedom of being a franchise, but being able to spiff it up the way I want to. Yeah, a lot of the old Napas don't keep much up front. Now, some of the newer ones do. Now, you go to the newer stores, you'll see uh, a lot of them have put retail out front, and because they've seen that they've lost some from the competition doing that. Yeah, well, I try to. I mean, my old store was the old traditional store, and it was terrible. And when I first took it over, the boys inside, the first complaint I had, because I kind of critiqued everything, went around town to see what my competitors doing, see what other people said, and 99% of them said, I can't go in that place. They said it smells like an ashtray. And the two guys that were working in there, they both sat there behind the counter, and it was a cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. And you would open the door and it'd knock you down because it smelled like an ashtray. I mean, I knew that before I bought it, and that was the first thing I told them. I said, guys, I mean, if you smoke, that's fine. Go outside and smoke, but I'm not going to have smoking in my store because the residue gets on the product. The people that don't smoke walk into it and just it bothers them. Even some people that did smoke, they knew that it bothered them when they came in if it was just they're inundated with too much smoke. So that's one thing that I stopped immediately. The first day I took over, I said, here's the new rule: no smoking inside the store. We're going to clean it up and try to make it nicer. But it was so bad. It took the whole new remodel to make it more decent. And I was so glad when I got out of the old store because I felt like that we could kind of clean up our image, because as long as it was in the old store, the image still lingered the way it was run, and I didn't like that. So I changed it up, got it more computerized. I did away with a lot. They had books piled everywhere in there, and I said, we're not going to have that. We'll have a few books, some of the hard to get items or whatever. I said, but we got books and books and books. And I said, guys, I've watched y'all. Y'all have not touched some of these books, and they're collecting dust on them. I said, so you can't convince me that you need that book. And plus, we had everything online anyway. But someone said, oh, well, I like to look at the book. Well, that's fine. If you want to go to the bathroom and look at a book, go ahead. But as far as being able to be useful, I've seen a couple of times where it was useful, but 99% of the time now they've got them online, just every single one of them. And I've made them more dependent on the computers, and they see how fast it is too. I mean, you can look up a part in a millisecond, just type in the description of what you need, and the guys find it. And now that I'm kind of got them reacclimated, I guess, to that kind of thought process. And of course, I've only have one guy that used to be at the old store. I've had a couple that I've had to that have moved on, or moved on. And we were glad to part ways, more or less, because sometimes you get people that their philosophy is ingrained into them so much that you can't tell them what to do. So it's probably best to go ahead and part ways sometimes. Yeah, I know it, and that's the thing about it, Chris. You can't be courteous of anybody else and smoke, whether it's a car or a building or whatever. And actually, our town has the ordinance against that, but those guys didn't care. I guess they figured they would, whoever owned the company would have to pay the fine. So they would smoke even though they knew that there was a smoking ordinance in our town. You're not supposed to smoke in a public building. And so that's what we get. Yeah. Well, I don't get too much into the body odor, but I mean, you can get that too. I'm not. I get. It's funny. I've got this new floor, and I put the epoxy paint on our floor, and it looks really good. And every day it never fails. And we got the carpets out there, the Napa carpets, and then we get we pay a service to pick up and everything, and it never fails that these old farmers will come in with these muddy boots. And I have one farmer, he's a dairy farmer, he's pretty nice. I saw him and I said, Rusty, I said, what you doing barefoot? He said, you don't want me tracking in what's on my boots. I said, well, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Yeah, I know. I don't have to work. Thank goodness we got air. Yeah, but sometimes you got that. I've had drivers sometimes that I couldn't jump in behind the driver in a truck because they didn't realize how much BO that they put on the truck seat or something like that. So BO can be something for some people. I mean, you would think that most people know to clean up and use deodorant, but you can't tell everybody that. They'll definitely there'll be some in there that will surprise you, and sometimes you're surprised with who will be like that too. Yeah, Pepe Le Pew. Yeah. That's you nickname somebody Pepe Le Pew. Yeah, I can see that. I think I've told y'all in the past that I was in Salt Lake City one time, and I had a friend. We were at a software conference. I used to have this when I had my internet business and graphics. I used to have to go to Salt Lake City a good bit, and I was out there in a conference, and a lot of us guys, we'd gone out to eat and everything else. And this one guy, we'd been friends for a few years, and he was from England. And he said to me, he said, Mike, he said, you remind me, he said, your voice reminds me of somebody. He said, I hope you won't take offense. He said, it's actually somebody I see on TV. I said, well, no, I probably won't take offense to it. And he said, it's Foghorn Leghorn, the cartoon. I said, I go, yeah, I can see that. So I guess I was like Foghorn Leghorn to him, my Southern drawl, So he was, like I said, he was from England. I guess he had never really seen anybody from the South in real life. And then when all these other people with the Midwestern and Eastern accents is there, and then there I am alone, and I kind of stood out to the crowd and everything. Was that your drink? My wife is close by. You'll say, hey, Barbara? No, Barbara won't say hey. Barbara will wave. She waved at me, but she wants nothing to do with the camera or nothing to do with saying anything while I'm online. She's always been shy. Yeah. Yeah, I see it. Hey, Mechanic Mike, how are you doing? Yeah. Chris said, hey, Miss Barbara. Hey, she did say hey to Chris. Yeah, Ponca said hey too. Yeah, well, she's out and about. Like I said, she's out here she's out here in the garden this morning. She has a real pretty flower garden out here. My wife has got a good green thumb when it comes to stuff like that. She puts a lot of effort into it, likes gardening. She's been out putting her annuals out, and all that sort of stuff. And then we're trying to get it spiffed up a little bit. I guess we're going to have my class reunion here at my house in September. I've got the big one this year. I got a big one, number 50. I've been out 50 years out of high school. That's how old I am, guys. I've been out of high school 50 years. So I've graduated class of 1969. So I'm an old guy. A lot of you guys probably weren't even born in 1969 or 79 or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it was a good year. 69 was a good year. Tim, I guess you remember it then. Yeah, 69 was a good year. It was at getting toward the end of the Vietnam era. I was still subject to be drafted. I wasn't, though, thank goodness. And my brother and I both got college deferments, and I buy lotto tickets now, but that's the only lotto I ever won, you might say. Back then, they had the lottery and for the draft, and it used to be the Selective Service. I don't know how they did it exactly, but they decided I guess they got too many. Well, you graduated 77, okay, and you're a 90 model Ponca. Yeah, but back in the late 60s and everything, they came up with a lottery system for the draft. And of course, a lot of you probably don't even remember the draft either. But the Selective Service system, we used to have to go register. You had to go register when you turned 18. And they had so many people, and the Vietnam War was getting so bad. And I think that so many people were saying it wasn't fair the way they were doing it. So they came up with a lottery system. And then it was based on your birthday. So, basically, whichever birthday came out first was one. And I remember February 14th, Valentine's Day, was the number one pull, or one of the close pulls, first or second. And a friend of mine was born on February 14th, and he came back and he said, "Well, I won the lottery, I guess." He said, "I'm going to be one of the first to go." But mine, fortunately, was way down. Mine was like 328 or something like that out of 365. So, and they had already told us how far up the lottery each year. Well, they would tell you each year, we're probably going to take numbers up to 200 or something like that. So for the rest of the duration during the Vietnam War, I had a high lottery number because of that, and that was great. And it was a big relief because I could have been taken into the Vietnam War. Well, of course, I had a college deferment too. But if I hadn't maintained good grades in college, they could draft me, and that's the way it was going back in the late 60s. And of course, the Vietnam War kind of petered down about I'd say 72, 73, somewhere in there, 74. I don't know the exact years. It kind of we got out of it completely, but it was tapering down, and they weren't taking as many. So that's a good thing. But yeah, 69 was a good year. And if you look at the statistics, Trump's got the economy back in shape, and they compare it with what was going on in the late 60s. It's been as good as the last 50 years and everything like that. So that tells you the barometer of how the economy was going, about like it is now. Everything was pretty prosperous. I got my first job at Carolina Freight because they were having trouble getting enough guys to load freight. The economy was so good and things were expanding back then that they needed young bodies to unload freight. So I got my first job as a freight. Well, not my very first job, but my first good job, you might say, was down there at Carolina Freight, a major job because it paid union wages and everything else. Union wages in 1969 1967 when I started down there. I was still in high school. What do you think union wages were in 1967? Does anybody want to give it a guess? See if anybody can figure out how much union wages, top of the rank, back in 67, how much you think I was making? And I thought I was getting rich. I can tell you that because I knew what I was making as a curb hop. I knew what gas was going for. I knew everything else. Nope, wasn't 425, 329. I started down there at 329. You were close though. Yeah, $1.99. Yeah, it's 329 is when I started union wages. Yeah, and that's what union wages were in 1967, 68. And I thought I was rich at 329. I mean, I was making over $100 a week, 40-hour a week. I'd make $120 a week, and that was fantastic because your average mill worker, minimum wage back then was around $1 an hour, probably. So that's how far we've migrated up and everything. Minimum wage now is twice what I used to make as top wages. And to do that, that's, not jumping on the political stunt, but I feel like that's we're going to put people out of work that are entry level people, because I, like myself, owning a business, I can't afford to hire an entry level person at $15 an hour. It just won't justify it. I mean, the work will not justify it. And people that need to get started, they're going to be displaced because of that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you hear that about 65% of, yeah, and a lot of people quit. I remember people putting it down because it got too expensive. And now the cigarettes are what? I don't know what they are, $5 or $6 a pack. I don't smoke, so I don't know. But that's what you get sometimes too. We're in a volatile situation right now, and I hope we can stabilize the economy. I hope it'll stay good for several years. We got so many factions right now wanting to tear at you, and so many people think that the corporate greed out there. I mean, the rich man is going to get rich, or he's not going to do anything. If he's already got money and he wants to expand something to get richer, that's great. I mean, expansion. I mean, I have never wanted to go to work for a guy that was poor. That's the thing about it. I mean, everybody out there wants to work, but they want whoever they work for to be substantial enough that they know they're going to get a paycheck the next day or the next week. I don't want to go out there and give a man, 8 or 10 hours of work, and at the end of the day, he says, "Well, can I pay you next week? Because I just don't have the money." Well, if they didn't have the money, I don't need to be doing the work for them, and I think that's fair. I mean, so you've got to look at it in that respect. Everybody wants to be paid for what they're doing, and everybody deserves to be paid for what they're doing. But there are certain entry level jobs that cannot warrant the high price that they're wanting to put on some things. Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect with a lot of different things out there. We're teetering on a lot of different crazy things out there. I mean, I'm for immigrants coming into the United States. I do want them to be legal though, and I want the people that need to come and can help society, and basically we can be helped by immigrants if it's done properly. Now, if they're not vetted, it's not a good thing. people need to be vetted because we need to know what type of people are coming into the United States. And I don't think that's unreasonable to ask that. I mean, it's just like when I'm hiring people, they're vetted too. I mean, we vet every driver. We check out the background. We want to make sure that they are who they are. We don't want to say a guy to come up and say, "Oh yeah, I can drive that truck," and then you get out there and he can't drive anything. So there is a process in place for every single thing out there, including immigration, that we vet people and make sure that they are the people who say they are. And when they come in, here's the procedure. Let's do this. And we'll do this legal. I'm not against people coming in. I mean, some people say close the borders. I mean, I think we need to close the borders if we can't do it properly. But if we do it proper, then and we have a certain amount, a certain level. I mean, there's a tipping point where you can't flood everything and expect everybody to come in and to get welfare or whatever. And that seems to be the sticking point. And I can understand it. I mean, just because you live in Mexico and you're not making any money, and if you feel like you get across the border, get into the United States, and then you can get free services, it's not fair. I don't care who says it, one way or the other. That is not fair. Coming into the United States with a work visa, and you're taking a job or that people need to do, that's fair. But just getting across the border and say, okay, I'm free, I'm here, I want lawyers, I want food, I want this, I want that. Not fair. So that's basically the way I kind of look at it. And I try to, try to be logical with it. But, as long as we can get things straightened out. Yeah, it does. And we can't have too much of one melting pot because you don't want the demographics of the entire United States changing overnight. And that's some of the problem we're having too. Albeit said, I mean, I have some people from Central America and Mexico and a few others that I've got 4 foreigners actually working for me right now. And they're good employees. They're good employees. They're dependable and they work hard and we pay them good. So, and they are people that, and every single one of them are vetted, and they have, a couple of them are citizens now. A couple of them are applied and are trying to be citizens, but they go through what they call the I-9 process, that they're checked through the government. They got proper Social Security cards and everything is in place. And of course, they got their driver's license too. Couldn't drive. They didn't have that. So they're people that have worked to get to their status. And I can appreciate that. Now, the people that just want to jump in and say, I'm last on board, but I want everything, I'm not appreciative of that either. So it's a crazy situation. Well, guys, my voice gets out at about 45 minutes here, so I'm gonna call it a day again. And I've enjoyed everybody jumping in here. I hope we've had a good open discussion this morning. And it's been a beautiful morning out here, so I've enjoyed talking with you. And that's about it for me today. And when I come back with maybe good news, bad news, whatever, I'll jump on here and let you know. But right now, everything's going pretty good. But I'm going to hit the old button up here and call it a day. See you around.